Let's start with a long title. NHS Durham Dales, Easington and Sedgefield Clinical Commissioning Group. I think we'll abbreviate that to Ddes Ccg. CCGs are made up of local GP practices and other health professionals who purchase services to suit the specific needs of their area. No two areas will have the same needs, and the CCGs can make sure that the health services that are provided are the ones that are appropriate. But how do they know what the needs actually are? Well, one way is by holding a commissioning intentions event, such as this one in Spennymoor. Clinicians, support groups, volunteers, and perhaps most important, the general public, the health service users, brought together in a day of roundtable discussions.
Commissioning intentions are where the CCG is looking to actually identify the areas that it actually wants to take forward and develop services, whether they be in primary care, general practices in the community, or in secondary care in the hospitals in the area, and trying to identify what are the most appropriate areas to invest money in. What we're doing here is actually getting a feel for what the community feel about what has been suggested by the CCG. These suggestions that will be made by the members of the public during today will be taken seriously. They're going to go next week to what are called the Clinical Champions Group, and we're going to try and use them to try and develop some perhaps changes to what has been suggested. If we find that the community wants totally separate things from we as healthcare specialists want, we have to be reactive to that and actually try and see what we can do to develop those. And often, let's be perfectly frank, we're not perfect. People in the community come up with darn good ideas that may well be just as effective, if not more effective, than the ideas that we have. We have, of course, national directives. In some ways, they are always the most important area. But we have local areas that have been identified at previous meetings and by the clinical champions locally.
We've shown from the last event that we did just that. We produced a document saying, you said we did, and that showed how we responded to the comments that we'd received, and we intend to do the same again today. So yeah, very much, we're a clinically led organisation, but we're here for the patients, and it's about what they want and what they need. So of course their opinions are of great importance to us.
We listen to what they say, and we feed that back into the CCG process. It goes to the Clinical Champions Committees, and then we pick out themes, and then if they agree with what we were planning to do, that's great. But if something is different, then we will look at that again and see how we can change things to improve things from the patient point of view as well.
There's lots of discussion and debate around various topics has been identified, and then based on those discussions and feedback received from members of public, clinicians from other, providers such as hospitals, mental health trusts and so on, we collate feedback which is then shared with the people who've attended the event today. It also goes on the website for sharing out with the public, and then that feeds into how the strategy is planned for the next couple of years by the CCG. It's very important because at the end of the day, what we need to do is to commission services for the population we serve, for the people we look after. And if we don't have insight into what their needs are, what are the issues they face about the services that exist, we can't really move forward. We might have our own viewpoints, our own individual perspectives about how the services work currently, but until we get our population, our patients, our people on board, it is very difficult to move in the right direction, which actually satisfies the needs of the population.
Norman, what attracted you to today? What made you come along to this?
Just the way I am and, what I suffer from, and, I thought, well, you might get to know which would improve, a better life for me and that. Because I know I suffer from mental health problems. I have done for over 20 years, and I've been diagnosed with different things, so I don't really know what I'm suffering from. So I came today to try and find more on about mental health, and if there's anything besides going to see a doctor, that I could do for myself.
So when you come to have your session with the mental health specialist, what sort of thing will you be asking?
Just something like, is there more care outside like a community, rather than going in hospital? Because, like I say, I was in and out of hospital for years, and I know I'm not well at the minute, but I don't want to go into hospital, and I just want to know if there's still care outside the community instead of getting took into hospital.
My organisation works in the field of interventions, mental health interventions primarily, and I was very interested to come along today and just try and engage with the future planning of the CCG. I think far too often we bemoan the way the health service goes about its business, and this is a great opportunity for us to get involved and actually influence how it goes about its business, which I think was an opportunity I particularly didn't want to miss. Experience tells me that certainly Ddes are very, very clear about their intentions, and it isn't just tokenistic. I have had some recent experience where we have brought interventions that we've been involved in as an individual charity in a particular part of the world, and the potential that has, it's actually been recognised, the potential has actually been recognised, and there's been actual actions taken by the clinical commissioning group as a result of what we've come forward with in suggestions.
I don't want to go in the hospital, because before I was in and out of hospital like a yo-yo. But now I found out there's plenty of support outside. So then that does make us feel better, because I don't want to go in the hospital anymore, not if I can help it. It's been worthwhile me coming to the group, because I'm only just come from the mental health part, because like I say, I've been suffering with depression and different things over 20 years now. And but now I know there's more help in the community rather than just bang you up in hospital straight away, so I'm grateful for that, yeah.
I've come to this meeting to actually disseminate information, because I'm supposed to be, if you like, a specialist. I'm a retired specialist. I keep bang up to date, and I'm talking to members of the public and others about learning disabilities, autism, and what Ddes is doing for those services.
I'm a project worker with an organisation called Investing in Children. So we're a children's rights organisation. So we support children and young people to make positive changes in a whole range of different areas, different services, based on what children and young people want. And we support them to know their rights and to make sure that they are listened to, and they work with adults to listen to their views and, like I say, to make things, make positive changes based on what young people want. We have a young people's diabetes group, so it's providing ongoing support and peer support for children and young people with type 1 diabetes. I also coordinate the county-wide health group, and again, that's bringing children and young people together to look at what are young people's health priorities and how does that fit in with the CCG's priorities. So our role, and my role as a project worker, is to get these young people together and to act as sort of the man in the middle between the CCG and the children and young people, to make sure that we are able to involve the young people in having a voice and having a say. I've got a couple of young people with me today who are involved in a number of our groups, and they've been able to have their say, and I think it's quite nice at an event like this, which is all adults other than the young people that Invest in Children have brought along, to make sure that young people's voices are listened to. We're quite fortunate that we do work with a range of children and young people who have a whole range of different experiences, some positive, some negative. Some have had a negative experience but come out the other side, and they can provide evidence and share experiences based on the other young people that they've worked with as well. So I would say today they've definitely been listened to. Based on our relationship with the CCG, I'm very confident we're very fortunate that we've got a very positive relationship with them.
I think I have been listened to today. I was worried about me and Liam being the only young people there. But I feel like when we sat down, we've been respected, people's listened to us, and we've been thanked for our feedback. And I really do think that people's appreciated having some young people come along.
I think it's been really good, and I just hope we'll be able to take this forward and people will actually see that the sort of things that have been suggested are actually things we take heed of and actually use to develop our strategy in the future.
I think it's been great. I think it's been a really valuable opportunity to hear from the people who actually use the services, to hear what issues they're facing, to be able to get their opinion on what the proposed plans are and whether they actually fit into the needs of those people.
I feel really positive about what we've heard today. My table was the urgent and emergency care, and I came expecting to hear things that I've heard before, but actually I've come with hearing things about mental health that I hadn't even considered. It's really informed the decision making, I think. That's just one example.